What's up, guys? Election predictions 2020 here, and as promised, I'm doing the video for Joe Biden. 5 reasons why Joe Biden could beat Trump in the 2020 election. And before I get started, I just wanted to say, remember to subscribe. There should be a watermark in the bottom right-hand corner. And my goal for the end of the month is to try to get 100 subscribers. Right now, I have over 50 subscribers. And if I get 100 subscribers, there'll be a big surprise that I'll tell you when that happens, if it happens. All right, so the first reason why Joe Biden could win in 2020 is the DNC apparatus will be much stronger. I think that the Democrats have learned from their mistakes in 2016. One of Hillary Clinton's biggest mistakes is that she did not visit Michigan. And she did not put a big emphasis on campaigning in states like Pennsylvania and Wisconsin because they were considered part of her blue wall. These are states that Trump held many rallies in and ended up winning by a very narrow margin. Joe Biden will definitely focus on these states. A lot of money from Democratic PACs will be spent on advertising in these states, and Joe Biden will definitely hold rallies here. And I think that will definitely make a difference because the people of Michigan just felt ignored by Hillary Clinton. So a lot of them didn't vote for her. Next up is I think that Joe Biden will reach out more to working class whites who voted for Obama twice and then voted for Trump. He's going to try to win those voters back with a message. With his message, I don't think Hillary Clinton focused as much on this. And also, I think Joe Biden's going to specifically reach out to the people in the suburbs who might have voted for Trump in 2016 because they've always voted for the Republican nominee, but they also voted Democratic in the 2018 midterms. You saw this a common theme among a lot of people in the suburbs, especially females in the suburbs. And also, I think the Biden campaign will look at what worked for the Trump campaign in 2016. The Trump campaign hired this firm, Cambridge Analytica, and they were very effective at putting ads up on Facebook and micro-targeting certain voters. I'm sure the Democrats, the DNC, the Biden campaign will have a similar type of apparatus. So they can become even with the Trump campaign in this regard. And secondly, the DNC will be flush with cash. Mike Bloomberg up in the right top-hand corner, he's already donated $18 million to the Democratic National Committee, and he's probably only going to do more. He ran an unsuccessful campaign and spent close to $1 billion. So he's obviously willing to spend his own money. And he really just wants to see Trump out of office. He's already endorsed Biden. And same with Tom Steyer. He's another one of the billionaires who ran for president. I'm sure that he will be, he might start his own PAC or give some money to the DNC. And George Soros is always a very big donor to the Democrats. He donated a lot to Hillary Clinton. But I'm sure with all three of these people combined with other wealthy donors, they're going to be willing to spend more money because I think in 2016 they didn't really think Trump was going to win, so they didn't really open up their pocketbooks as much. But I think this go-around they will be willing to. And lastly, I would say that the Democrats kind of did this playbook that I'm outlining right here in 2018, and it worked. So I think they're going to repeat a lot of those things. They're going to reach out to these voters that might have voted for Trump, and they're going to run candidates who are probably more moderate. So, for example, in Montana, Steve Bullock is running for Senate. Like, that was a great recruitment. Cal Cunningham. In North Carolina, John Kelly in Arizona. These are all very good candidates that the Democrats recruited that will probably help Biden upstream in Arizona and North Carolina. So next up, the number 4 reason why Biden might win in 2020 is there's more unity among the Democrats. The primary process was not as nasty as it was in 2016. If you remember, it was between Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders. This lasted a very, very long time. You like the last states that were voting for them. I mean, you remember in Michigan and Wisconsin were states that Bernie won. He could have won it, but I mean, as you can see, this go around, these states don't really even matter. And so this is less time for Democrats to attack Joe Biden, and you've already seen that like Bernie Sanders has endorsed Joe Biden, and all the other Democrats, including even like Tulsi Gabbard, someone who didn't endorse Hillary Clinton in 2016, they've all endorsed Joe Biden in 2020. I think they've realized that if we want to win and if we want to beat Trump in 2020, we really have to rally behind our Democratic nominee. So I think definitely there's more unity among the Democrats right now. And I think you've seen Joe Biden already start to do this. I think he's going to make more concessions to the progressive wing, kind of the Bernie Sanders wing of the party, than Hillary Clinton did in 2016. You saw that Joe Biden has proposed lowering the age for Social Security to 60. And I mean, although Bernie probably would have done more radical measures if he were president. I mean, this is just something that Biden is giving to the progressive wing of the party, saying, hey, you might not love all my policies, but still I'm a lot better than Donald Trump, and I'm making an effort to reach out to you. One other thing, you saw that Barack Obama recently endorsed Joe Biden. I think this will help Joe Biden a lot. And I think Joe Biden in a lot of his ads can tie himself to Barack Obama. Barack Obama is very popular among Democrats. He has like over a 50% approval rating in the country at large. So I think that Joe Biden can tie himself to Barack Obama in a more genuine way that Hillary Clinton never really could, because Joe Biden has always been with Barack Obama. And also, I think it's really smart for Joe Biden to pick a female vice president. Obviously, in the history of our country, there's never been a female president or a female vice president. So I think that Joe Biden reaching out and saying, hey, I want to have a very diverse cabinet and have a female as a vice president. He's really reaching out to a core constituency in the Democratic Party and saying, hey, I care about y'all. And same with the cabinet members. He's talked about having like Beto O'Rourke in charge of gun policy, like Bernie Sanders in charge of like healthcare, and Warren. So he's really trying to get all the Democrats that were in the presidential primary process and like bring them together. And like if so, someone who maybe Biden wasn't their first choice, and be like, well, he's reaching out and he's going to put who I liked in his cabinet. So I think this will help him in 2020. Third, I know a lot of people like to hate on Joe Biden. They think he's old. They think he's just another old white guy. But I actually think that people don't necessarily give Joe Biden the credit he deserves. I mean, I definitely think that people on the right are still not going to like him, and people on the left are generally going to be more favorable of him. But I think that he's been attacked a lot, but I think people might look at him in a new light, especially Democrats, be like, hey, he's actually a good candidate. He has a history of getting things done. He always talks about the Violence Against Women Act, but this is something that he really championed. And if it weren't for Joe Biden, I don't think this would get passed. And this was a pretty big piece of legislation that I think he will campaign on. And also just with civil rights, he's been in Congress. He's been in government for like 30 or 40 years, and he's always kind of been on the right side of history with some of these bills, with a few exceptions, like the crime bill of 1994 and maybe the Anita Hill hearings. But other than that, his voting record has been pretty good. And this is, I'm speaking from a Democratic perspective, of course. And one thing that he's going to campaign on is that he can get along with Republicans. It's actually funny. In the 1920 campaign for president, um, President Harding, he ended up winning. He was campaigning on this idea of normalcy. Normalcy wasn't even a word. He came up with it because this was after World War I and things were kind of crazy. This is also what Joe Biden is campaigning on. He thinks that these 4 years when Donald Trump is president is kind of a blip in history. He thinks that Donald Trump does not represent the core values of America, and he wants to bring back the normalcy that we saw with Barack Obama and even, he might argue, George Bush. And lastly, I would say he's just not Hillary Clinton. In 2016, a lot of people didn't vote for Hillary Clinton and maybe even voted for Trump, not because they loved Trump, but because they hated Hillary Clinton. I mean, you can even see this picture at the bottom. Like, Bernie Sanders campaigned for Hillary, but like they really hated each other. If you've seen the documentary about Hillary Clinton on Hulu, you can really see this. But I mean, Joe Biden is a much more likable figure, I think, and people are less suspicious of him. A lot of people just perceive Hillary Clinton as very conniving, and just she was not a very likable figure. Yeah, and he just has very low negatives. Okay, before I get to reason number 2, I just wanted to give a quick 30 seconds to shout out my new subscribers. So Olivia, Sabrina, William, Alexander or Alex, Andre or Nova, whatever you want to call him, Emma, and then Douglas. And I want to shout out Douglas especially because he's all the way from Scotland. So I'm building an international fan base. And so I would just encourage you right now to subscribe right here if you haven't already. So thank you all. Thank you all for being loyal supporters. And keep on watching my videos. All right, so number 2 reason that Joe Biden could win is the incumbent Donald Trump. He has high negatives in the polls. It's might not be able to see it right here, but his approval rating has been pretty stagnant, Donald Trump's. And, I mean, his disapproval rate has been over 50% pretty consistently. And so this is just not good for an incumbent running for re-election. The media just does not like him. They hate him. CNN, MSNBC, any of the mainstream outlets do not like him. And I think that they aren't going to advertise that they're doing this, but I think just with all their negative coverage of the Trump administration, they're going to be helping Joe Biden. And they definitely want Joe Biden to be president, even though if they might not explicitly say it because they're supposed to be fair and balanced to a degree. But I definitely think the media is going to help Joe Biden out just because they hate Donald Trump so much. I don't think that Donald Trump's tweets will help him in 2020. I think in 2016, maybe some people liked them. Maybe it helped him win the primary because it showed a sense of strength and maybe in like fighting back. But I think if anything, this go around, his tweets are probably going to negatively affect him among like swing voters, especially the educated suburbanites who have historically voted for Republicans. They just don't kind of like the nastiness of his tweets. And like if you see this one, I mean, this was from earlier in his, when he was the president-elect, he said that like millions of people voted illegally, and if not for those, that he would have won the Electoral College. I mean, this has been fact-checked a lot. It's not true. And so I think people are kind of ready just to like they don't like Donald Trump's tweets, and they might be ready to move on from him. And next up, I would just say the attack ads run themselves. I mean, there's all these kind of pictures of Trump. I mean, all you have to just type into Google like Trump unhinged, and here's like a picture of him getting really angry. I think one thing that Pete Buttigieg said in the debates is that the country wants a president. When you see him on TV, your blood pressure goes down instead of going up. And I think this could resonate with a lot of voters in 2020. I think you could say that if Some people would say if you saw Joe Biden on TV, your blood pressure might go down. If you see Donald Trump on TV, it might go up. So this appeal might work to some people. Lastly, I think the biggest decider of the 2020 election will be Trump's handling of the coronavirus. And no, the coronavirus crisis is not over. So it's definitely hard to predict how the coronavirus is going to affect the election. But I definitely think that Trump's handling of the coronavirus could hurt him and help Joe Biden as a result. I'm sure you've seen some of the clips from the White House press briefings. They can get pretty heated. I would say that the reporters a lot of times kind of ask gotcha questions. Sometimes they're a little bit unfair, but even for some softballs, Trump has not answered them as great as he could be, I think, just because I think he's under a lot of stress right now, and his instinct is kind of attack, not kind of be this comforter in chief who like mourns the deaths of people, but is very kind of reasoned about going forward and how we're going to handle this crisis. And when you've seen several governors, their approval ratings have increased, like Governor Cuomo in New York. This has not happened to Trump. His approval ratings have been stagnant. So this might be a reflection that people have not necessarily thought his handling of the coronavirus has been great, even though they haven't dipped at all. I think this is more of a reflection of how polarized our country is, but it's still pretty interesting. Biden has already been making this argument that he can handle the crisis better. In fact, I think he called President Trump and like gave him his plan, which I think was a little hokey. I mean, Trump's not going to use Biden's plan, but we'll see. And then also, so there's a lot of people every election cycle. I think our voting rate, voter participation rate's around 50%. I think with the coronavirus, you might see an uptick in people who vote. And I think some people who don't typically vote, they might blame Trump for the coronavirus, even though it wasn't necessarily his fault, or they might just blame how he handled it. Just because like the coronavirus has affected everyone, even people who aren't very political. So I think the coronavirus is definitely the big wild card in this election, and I'll be interested to see how it affects it for sure. All right, so that's the end of my video. Thank you for watching, and you can subscribe right here if you haven't already. And remember, if you subscribe and you're one of the 100 subscribers, I'm going to have a big surprise for you. So thanks for watching.